So the big question is this: how are millennials like you and I, who refuse to accept the American dream template that the schools and parents have tried to hand down to us, but looking to escape the rat race? How do we shift our mindset in life to reach success and find our happiness? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brandon Stover, and I'm an entrepreneur who is going from zero to success and sharing every one of my secrets along the way in order to inspire you to defy your odds. Welcome to the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. Today I have a special interview with a man who's gone from dishwasher trying to make money just to get by, clawing his way up the ladder of the restaurant industry after college, and then moving on to own and invest in 9 different restaurants around the inland Northwest area. This man has created high-end food creations that are unlike any other, while giving you a familiar sense of home and nostalgia of childhood. As an artist himself, he is helping to pioneer the culture of art, food, and hospitality with each new experiment. From restaurants to food events to digital dining, this man has built an entire food empire. It is with great intrigue, I would like to introduce Adam Hegsted on the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. Welcome, Adam. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
nice
no problem. What's that?
I said nice intro. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So give us a little bit of a background and story on you and how food and entrepreneurship kind of married for your life.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So really, I've always been in love with food. I was a pretty chubby kid growing up, and really it started by just baking with my mom and kind of hanging out in the kitchen, always wanting to be around food. Mostly to eat it, but also because I like to be able to, have my hands on and being able to create some things like that. I mean, I always love that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then getting into the restaurant industry, really, I don't think that I didn't know that I wanted to be a chef. It was more I was looking to be an artist. As kind of was what I was thinking when I was going in when I was in school. I really liked painting and doing some other types of art. But then I ended up getting a job as a dishwasher. I applied about 20 different places, all different kinds of retail spots, every kind of job you can think of. And I got hired on dishwasher. Happened to be a place that made all their stuff from scratch, even though it was a corporate restaurant. And just kind of right place, right time, happened to get that job. So, and that's kind of how my journey started. And then slowly, as I kind of grew up and got more mature, I decided that something I really loved. And the more I got into it, the more I started reading and learning, the deeper the passion became. And that's that was the start of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting that you kind of started as an artist and went to college for that and then ended up becoming a chef. Could you talk a little bit about why you chose food over art?
So I went to school for graphic design, and I ended up not liking the tediousness of it. There's a lot of proofing and doing over and over again the same drawing over and over. And so the thing with food is you get instant feedback, and you're able to create new things all the time, and right away whether they're good or not. And so you're able to just continually create and make it better all the time. And while I love being able to create art by painting and things like that, it is super hard to make a living at it. I mean, I guess cooking is pretty hard too, but it's just that instant feedback, instant gratification of cooking is kind of what I love.
Yeah.
And then when I was in culinary school, I went to community college here in Spokane, and then after that I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. And when I was there, I lived so far outside downtown because I didn't have a lot of money, so it would take me more time to drive to my house than it would just to stay at school. So I ended up staying at school in all my in-between classes or before work, and I ended up reading just about every cookbook in the library because of that. And so it ended up being this not only was I getting this education from the school, but I ended up getting this really wide education from just reading everything in the library and getting all that knowledge.
Yeah.
So that was ended up being really great.
Yeah, I mean, that's really awesome. I think, finding your passion outside of what you're going to school and sort of realizing that maybe what you went for wasn't exactly what you want to do, and then being able to build that sort of like second education for yourself by, reading all the cookbooks and whatnot. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And I just found something that I really loved, and it just started out as a job, but really, like I said, as I dove into it, I really ended up loving it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went to college as for architecture, and kind of in the same lines of graphic design. There's a lot of designing something and then going back to it and redesigning it and getting feedback, and that very tedious process. And so I can completely understand like wanting to have that instant feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like the creation process is fantastic. Like that part, your initial, idea and getting on the paper, that's like really great. But then when you show it to a client or you have someone you're doing work for, you just like keep going back through and doing all these proofs and all these things. It just takes the fun out of it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, as an architect, like I've been to a few of your restaurants, and I can like really tell that you have put some thought and idea into sort of the artistry of the building, as well as like the whole experience of eating food there. So I was wondering if you could expand on that and talk about like how you're creating an experience and not just a product of food.
Yeah. So let's see. So I think I've eaten a lot of places all around the world, and from high-end places to just small bistros and things like that. And like my favorite experience has always been a place that's a little bit more casual, where you're just kind of hanging out, sharing appetizers, having a good time, and less formal.
Yeah.
So I think all of our restaurants sort of have that casual sort of feeling to them, and none of them are fine dining, just because it's not, it just has that's never been my favorite experience. It's always been a different style of restaurant.
Yeah.
And so that's one part of it. The other part is like as we're trying to take an idea like Yards is an example of that, where we're trying to create something a little bit like almost instantly classic, where it's something that has all of the features of a classic diner, but then we're incorporating this like classic French techniques and like making everything from scratch instead of just opening bags, and we're using all these like techniques that are really used more for like fine dining restaurants, but in this like setting that's just a modern diner essentially. So it's
Yeah.
like
I
being
mean,
able to combine those two worlds together.
yeah. I mean, that's really awesome, and like really paying attention to each of those details, I think is what really makes each one of those specials. And you talk about like they're not exactly fine dining experiences, but they're an experience in themselves that like people want to go to.
Well, and then part of that too is like being able to give uh, the chef and the owner, I mean the chef and the general manager there, like give them some autonomous room to make decisions and to really take ownership of what's happening. So when we're creating a menu, they're having a lot of input and they're having a lot of say in how the things are going. Because I mean, ultimately, we want the restaurant to stand on its own and reflect exactly what's happening and the whole scene there. So it is a different experience from every restaurant that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit, like, I mean, now you have 9 restaurants or you're a part of, and
Yeah.
obviously you have developed a lot of skills with each one. But what were the struggles when you were first opening, the very first one?
Oh, that's pretty easy. So I'm a chef, and I'm not a business major or
Right.
accounting major or human resources. It's like all these things that most customers don't think about, obviously. But there's a lot of back of the house things that need to happen, and that was just it's a big learning curve, and it's hard to um, like when we had 1 or 2 restaurants, that was my hat. I had to be human resources, accountant. Um, I had to make sure that we were using health department codes and that we were following all the guidelines, or make sure the restaurant's clean, that our HVAC is working that plumbing works. You know, there's just all these things that, as a small business owner, you are that person. You don't have enough money to call someone every time something breaks, or be able to hire out all of these things, because there just isn't enough money to do that.
Yeah.
And
And I mean,
so, like, just being able to learn that business aspects of it, I learned them as I went through, as I grew up in the kitchens, and being at the casino, I learned a ton of stuff there about business management. And one of the biggest lessons I learned is that I don't know very much. And that still happens all the time. But
I think,
it's growing.
yeah, I think that's a huge thing though, like being able to admit that, you don't know each of these things, and then going out and basically trying to learn all this stuff, because you do have to wear a lot of different hats. And when people
Yeah.
start their businesses, they're excited to do what they're passionate about and share that with others, but then they don't realize that, yeah, they got to be a plumber one day, or they have to be an accountant,
Yeah.
30 minutes later, or they got to be human resources, and then they get to do their
Exactly.
passionate thing, you know?
Yeah. Cooking is a very small part of it. Even when it was, even when we have one or two businesses, you're still doing all this other thing outside of your 8 hours you're cooking on the line, or 12 hours you're cooking in the restaurant, or whatever. So it's just it's always a full-time job, no matter. If you like cooking, then great, but there's still a lot of other things that go into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same thing with every business, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have, 9 restaurants in your empire now. How do did it get easier with each one that you opened up, as you gained your skills, or, you know, are you
Yeah.
still like,
Each one has their challenges,
yeah,
and there's some things that we come to expect that make it a little bit easier. So, like time, it always takes a little bit of time to get definitely the nuances worked out, but even some bigger details. But the food, like the food quality and the food consistency and service consistency, and the flow of the restaurant, and all these things, they just take time um, to get down. And even from accounting aspects and human resources, and like getting all those aspects into a rhythm that's more consistent and works well, it takes 6 months to a year and a half to get that down. So there's that aspect of it where we don't worry about it being fixed right away. So if it's not fixed day one, then we know we have some work to do, and we're able to look at it in an honest way without getting too excited about it. So
right?
that helps. But also, we have a team of people now. We're able to afford an accountant and a human resources manager, and we just being able to spread that out across the restaurant group. Now we can do some things that we're able to offer benefits, and we're able to offer some help to our staff. There's like a lot of things that we weren't able to do with one or two places that we can do now, and we're just running a lot more efficiently. We're not making as many mistakes, and we're doing some things that and honestly, a lot of stuff we do is not done in the restaurant industry. Restaurant workers usually don't get benefits, or they don't get all these things that we're trying to offer. And that's because I think it's important. And I want to have a company and a culture that values their employees, because that's what creates a good restaurant. That's what creates good experiences, is people that actually like working there.
Yeah,
And it helps everybody. So.
yeah. Well, and I think, obviously you have, all these teams everywhere, for them to continue to stay loyal to you and really thrive in each of those businesses. I think, doing those extra things, like giving benefits to your employees and creating that culture that you actually care about them. I think it really helps each of the restaurants.
Yeah, we honestly do. We try to do as much as we can, and whether that's helping out whoever we can, or just like helping them advance their career, or seeing what they're interested in, instead of just saying, "Come to work, punch the clock, get the job done." We want to know how to make your life better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So talk a little bit about that efficiency that you were talking about before, and basically managing each of these restaurants. Obviously, you're only one person, so how do you stay sane focusing on each of these businesses?
So the chef, and like I said before, the chef and the manager are the ones that run the day-to-day business. They're the ones that make the decisions to make the business run. My job is more about business management and kind of the vision direction of each restaurant. So, like making sure that that we're staying on this sort of modern diner. The service reflects that, the food reflects that, that sort of idea. And also, if there's someone brings us an opportunity to look at it and go over it with the team, talk with the team about it, and decide if it's, ultimately decide if it's going to work for us or not. And then I have a general manager who kind of oversees all of my, so I'll give someone a project and then he makes sure that project gets done and kind of oversees that. There's our chef manager, which helps the chefs on any managerial issues, make sure that the restaurants are clean and safe, make sure that menus are getting, we're like keeping relevant and that the menus are changing constantly. Working with purveyors. We have a chef that does operations, so whenever we have a new operation that opens, he goes and works there, makes sure it's flowing and working, and then helps out when people, when there's, whether it's a catering or they just need an extra hand, he's that person.
Right.
So, we have, and like I said, an HR person and an accountant. So we just have like a couple extra people, and of course myself as an extra person to help out when it's needed, which is, there's always in the restaurant business, you're always short a little bit. So
right.
It's kind of the way it goes.
And
that's part of the learning process too, is like being able to say, to talk to the chefs and the general managers about that and say, hey, you're going to feel a little bit short at all times, whether it's busy season or slow season, you're always a little bit short. So if you need an extra hand, just call me and then we'll take care of it. And usually we're pretty good about that.
Yeah. How do you find those people that are going to fit in with your culture that you're trying to build and like really see your vision? Like, how do you find the ones that are going to be A players in your restaurants?
It's mostly attitude. I mean, we don't necessarily hire people that have a lot of training or background. It's more, we just want to hire somebody that is willing to put the work in and that is interested in growing with us. So, that's like probably number one when we're hiring.
Yeah.
We don't always make the best decisions, but we try to, we're asking some questions at the interview and trying to get a feel for the person to make sure that they want to be, be a part of what we're doing and be a fit in the culture. So, that's really it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for anybody that's just starting out, like you once were doing dishes, what is the one skill set in their mind that they have to basically learn and overcome?
I think it's really about connecting people. And so really the whole job my job, the restaurant industry comes down to people. So whether it's the customers that you're cooking for or working for, and you're part of their lives and celebrations and all those things. So like you're a part of that. So taking that responsibility and knowing that that's a real thing, and then trying to do your best for that. And then being able to, another part of it is the employees, like trying to make sure that they're taken care of and they feel like they're, that you want them there and that they want to be there and that you're helping them invest in their lives and careers and those kind of things. And then the other part of it is like our vendors and people we work with. It's just creating a positive relationship so that both of us can talk instead of like trying to be ruthless and fight for every dollar and penny, we just talk about it in a level way and say, hey, how can we make money together? I'm going to sell your product. You're going to sell me product. So how can we make this work so we both make money? And I think just being able to have those open lines of communication, whether it's, with someone we're leasing from as on a partner level, is like creating those partnerships with everybody. So like when we go to lease a restaurant, we want to go to that person that we're renting from and say, how can we develop partnership? You need me to be successful so you don't have an empty building and to pay the rent. So how do we develop that, that sort of partnership on every level? So whether it's our, our bank or vendors or anything like that, we're trying to develop those partnerships. And that's not something that a lot of people think about, but it's like being able to not burn bridges and being able to listen to everybody and be fair and like all of these things.
Right.
That takes a little bit of time to develop.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to put in the time and effort to really figure out how to have those people skills and be able to bring value to each one of the relationships that you're trying to have so that on both ends of the deal, like everybody has a win-win situation.
Yeah, and just being nice. I mean that's that's really a big part of it too, is just being nice to everybody, because you don't know when at some point in your life or your career you may be asking for help, or whether it's the dishwasher that's working for you now that may become the owner of the property you're on. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know how things are going to turn, and just try and be nice to everybody and give them a fair shake instead of trying to pinch every penny.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome, Adam. I thank you so much for your time and answering these questions. One last question: where can people find you online so that they can learn more about you?
At eatgoodgroup.com. I mean, we have restaurants. All of our restaurants have websites and social media accounts, but eatgoodgroup.com is our main website, and of course on Facebook and Instagram, we're everywhere. So.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Adam. Guys, I hope you will dig into this episode and figure out everything that you can about this. As a man who's opened up 9 restaurants, so I think he knows what he might be doing. All right, we'll see you on the next episode.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the behind-the-scenes look at our entrepreneur's journey. If you want to get more secrets to becoming an entrepreneur and pursuing your happiness, then visit www.hustleandhappiness.com. Join us again next time, and remember, you are just one decision away from your happiness.